Hi, welcome to another episode of the Pitch Room Africa. Wherever you're listening from, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on Apple Podcasts or you're even watching us on Spotify, welcome. You've been a valuable member of our community and we are grateful. I am your host as always, Sidi Sako, and I'm joined by my co-host Esther Richards. Hi Esther, how are you doing?
Hi, Steve. Nice to see you again.
Yes. I mean, it's always really good to be able to connect on our episode on a weekly basis. But
Yeah.
super excited about today. So for those of you who knows, we usually like to just play this game wherein we have our speaker or our guest at the center before we even, and then we go ahead and greet everybody before we even mention. That way you get to start thinking, who is this today? Well, today we're joined by Chioma. Chioma is the lead product manager at ADR. Hi, Chioma. Welcome to the Picture of Africa. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank
Hi,
you.
Chioma.
it's
Welcome.
it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
No, it's the pleasure is all ours. Let's start. Let's
Yeah.
start with the question. What is your story, Chioma? Like, what's your story?
Let me give you a little bit of backstory for before when I joined. When I then transitioned to technology. In school, I started out as a pharmacist, right? So basically, my background is pharmacy. Um, but while I was in school, I sort of like wanted to do more, right? I wanted to have a career that was creative, but also, really, you know, data driven. That's just how I'm gonna put it, right? And I know one of the key things I knew then was to become an entrepreneur, right? So the first things I had to do was, find a nice product that I wanted to sell and just started selling them right out of school. I had this amazing background of pharmacy. I was doing my internships in large, teaching institutions that is in the university. I had one full year of residency, right, or internship as we call it in pharmacy. And yet, throughout all those times, I was just trying to identify products people wanted and selling it to them, right? Because I just wanted a career that was more than you know um, pharmacy, right? I If anyone asks me why did you end up with pharmacy, I really don't know. But I also believe it did make me the kind of person that is persistent and consistent and understands how to learn. So those were like the major key skills I took from that before I then gently transitioned into technology. So while I was doing all those businesses and really doing well with it, actually, I started thinking of building a tech startup, right? And being somebody who had started was really familiar with taking something from the ground up, taking something that was nothing. I remember I was doing my NYSC then, and I had about $100. That was about 100K around ish then, or even less, and then use that to build a business that within the first year I made like 6 million, and as far back as then. So that was what kicked off the fact that I had deep interest in entrepreneurship. A lot of it came from my experiences as a child, but let me just move on from there. And then I just started thinking, oh, I want to make this um, much more a tech startup than just building a traditional business because I wanted to do things at scale. I had then at that time signed up for engineering classes in a hub that was really close to me. And I think at that time, that was the only engineering class around me that I can remember currently. And I remember telling them, "Oh, I don't know. Do you guys teach people like me? I'm not from a technical background, but I want to learn this thing." And they were like, "Yeah, and we're even giving discounts for ladies, right?" And I think the fee then was 100K as well. I then had to, go in, and that was how I started my classes. I remember us being like close to 15 when we started the class, and then we were finally left with, I think, three people at the end. It was just so funny. It was just myself, another lady, and just one other guy. All right. So as I said, people didn't understand this entire tech thing, and especially in my locality at that time, it was also not really popular. But one thing was that the more I started learning about tech, the more interesting it got for me. And then I started building a business with my co-founders, and then doing something in the social enterprise, connecting collectors to um, um, like connect collectors to businesses, right? For to take their trash and help, for better general waste management at that time. And we did that for 2 years or so before I then moved on to do other things in technology. But yeah, let me stop there for a while.
Yeah, I'm just very curious to know. You were a pharmacist. What makes you get excited to go into tech, and what was that transition like? Because um, you know, getting into tech is the idea of getting into tech and being in tech, two different things, two different
Yeah.
perceptions on when you are, you know, people think it's a cool thing, it's tech, everybody's talking about tech, and when you are in there. So I want to really understand how was it like, and what were the influences that made you want to actually build a tech company coming from a traditional pharmacist background, and what was that transition like for you?
Yeah, so that transition was, I would say, it was brutal from all fronts, right? I was a mom. I'm a mom of three. Um, as at then, okay, I had two kids. As at then, I got married straight out of school. So I was this young lady trying to find herself, trying to understand this new thing that she wanted to do, and then having the pressure of having kids, and my entire family thinking, "Oh, this girl, you're definitely insane," right? My parents saying to me, "Oh, I didn't send you to pharmacy school to go do run around with all the small children," right? And then having a husband who is, "Oh, I didn't marry you because you wanted to do this whole nonsense that we don't understand." So I would say it was brutal, but I think I have this inner persistence, right? And to be fair, if it wasn't satisfying and fulfilling and purposeful for me, I would have stopped, right? I guess I didn't stop because I started seeing like the vision that I had for myself, right, coming to pass in technology, right? It was really painful at that point because I wanted us to leave to stay closer to where the tech opportunities were. My family didn't understand that. I wanted us to do this one. Nobody understood it. It was, you can imagine how deeply frustrating it was for me. But yeah, I scaled through. But one of the key things that started giving me validation in the things I was doing at that time was that I was recognized. So I won the Mandela Washington Fellowship, um, that entire package, right, to go to the US, and that became like one huge validation to what I was doing. It was really exciting, doing this thing that people thought didn't make sense, and all of a sudden, I have these huge opportunities coming, and I think that was where that was where that tipping point where people began to say, okay, maybe there is something in what you're saying. We still don't get it, but yeah, maybe there is something there, you know. So
I know, I know,
um,
I know Esther wants to come in, but I want to just do a very quick follow up before I lost a train of thought. Um, do you think, and this is a controversial question, and we love to ask controversial questions here at the Pitch Room. Um, so, do you think one of the biggest barriers for women getting into tech is actually comes from their family than it does from the system that they want to get into?
I think it's threefold. For a guy, it might be one fold or twofold. I think it comes from their themselves first, right? Then their family and support system, and then of course we have some resistance as well within the ecosystem. So these are the three things they should,
How did you navigate those three
also.
things? How did you navigate those things? And I want to believe that you still, as a high performer, still very much active in the tech ecosystem. It might have been better, but I want to believe that you still face some of these things. So I'm just keen to know, on the early days, not now, at the very early days, how were you able to navigate those situations?
Yeah, thank you. So like I said, it was consistently advocating for myself, right? And advocating for this vision, this purpose. So people say I'm visionary, right? I tend to set this huge vision and then talk to people about it. And I think that was what in fact, if you ask me, that's what I've been doing for the past 7, 8, 9 years that I've been in tech. Just advocating, setting this vision, telling people about how this amazing thing can become, a tool for change, being purposeful with it. And, it also kind of like came from also inspiration from within myself. I wanted to be better. I didn't want to be boxed in. I wanted to tell women this was okay. It was okay to have all this awesome, crazy dreams. And regardless of what you thought were constraints, overcome them. So, um, knowing that, yes, the next generation of women will see the things I've done, and especially because I had girls too, I wanted to make them see that, this fight wasn't just for me, but then also for them, so that regardless of systematic changes, they could see that mom was able to achieve what she set out to do, and as well I could. So that was just the entire thing, bringing. How it came together for me. For the tech ecosystem, thankfully, it wasn't quite difficult for me to get in, because I remember when we were done with um, when I stepped out of my startup, and when myself and my co-founders wanted to do something else, I said, okay, what was the best thing I could do in technology? Because I had done things around products, it really became a natural next step for me. And I remember my network saying, hey, we have opportunities here at the intersection of healthcare and technology. And it was just the natural I was naturally qualified for it, right? I remember her reaching out to the founder of my company as at then and just giving me an introduction. It was that easy then, right? And say, hey, I think Chioma is really great. She's a pharmacist. She understands the industry, and that was it, right? So I think, yeah, I think those were that was just how it happened for me. And of course, we had interviews as at then. So those interviews. So when we had that interview with the company, it was just like, yeah, she's qualified. So I didn't have. So it kind of made me, as I then realize how much when it, when you have like a woman and a man who is equally qualified in technology, sometimes they will want to go for the lady. Why? Because of that inequality that was naturally in that space as at that time, right? We had females in tech, but we just didn't have enough. Usually, engineering teams were a lot more saturated with men, right, than female, right? But yeah, so that was how I started getting opportunities from then. And but after that point, I had friction trying to change industries because I could see that I became like, sort of, well, not, it's not like everything, but yeah, became really popular in the healthcare, digital healthcare space. And it became easier for people to reach out to me and say, hey, I have this opportunity in telemedicine, and we see your background fits plus your number of years of experience. But I started like saying, no, at some point, I don't want to do everything healthcare. Guys, I left this space in the traditional sector. And in as much as I want to do it in healthcare, I still want to explore, right? So when I wanted to do other things, it was a bit difficult because people would say, "Oh, you don't have a computing background, or you don't have a pharmacy background." So each time it made me know that each time you try to break your own ceiling, right, then you have to contend with all the constraints around there, right? Yeah. But then I started like seeing that, okay, this is a real, it's not a huge problem, but it's something, right? um, Especially when you talk about fintech, right? And me, who didn't have anything about any experiences with fintech, but one thing I've always known about myself is that everything that can be learned is learnable. If I can learn it, there is nothing. If the information is out there, there is nothing we can't achieve by just learning. And just learning, understanding how to iterate. So the same way you iterate in product development is also the same way you also iterate with your career. And this is something that has helped me to, skill my career as well.
Wow. Okay. So I have like three layers of questions, but I'm going to try to take it back a little. Um, about the aspect of your passion, I want to believe that you are in the sweet spot where you are actually doing something you are passionate about and you're getting paid for it, right? That's where
Yes.
you are now. Yeah. So was it the
Yes.
same place? Let's take this same sweet spot back to your startup that you founded with your founder. What was the reason why it didn't work? And what would you do differently now? If, with all that you know, what would you do differently?
Yeah. Okay. On it. So why it didn't work was that the unit of economics at that point, right? It was just too much, so we couldn't scale, right? So we're looking at everything around our customer acquisition costs, cost per click to even um, acquire one user, or at least people to come see our sites as at then. Then lifetime value, customer lifetime value. These are like important metrics. And we had issues with balancing that so that we can scale it, right? It was easier to get businesses to come on board us, but because we wanted to be at the center, a platform that was basically so doing the connections, right? And I said then the businesses just wanted to pay a certain amount of fee. And with the percentage we were taking, it wasn't making sense for the business as at that time, right? So for it to make sense, we had to go for a lot more people or a lot more users, and we didn't have them at scale then. Don't forget this wasn't a time where buying things online was very popular. Plus we had to contend with things like infrastructure, how would they pay, and all that. Also, the collectors themselves were not technology sound, so we had like constraints around that. But you know, uh, from what I know now, I would say still the same things. If the unit of economics don't match, there's still nothing you can do about it. The only thing is, can you get it up to a point, right, where you can raise a ton of money? That's just the thing. With as much cash as you can, right? Because it wasn't that we were not making money. It's just that, at some point we ran out of money, and we couldn't raise a lot more. So yeah, but from what I know now, it's still, honestly, I was talking to a business owner this morning because I advise for Founders Institute. I'm an associate director at Founders Institute Lagos, and I have these office hours with founders during the weekend, and I tell them the same thing. And basically everybody knows me. When you're coming, please do come with your experiments, what you understand from the problems that you're solving. How many experiments have you run for your users? Tell me practically how many of them you've spoken to, right? How many people are in your beta, and how much satisfaction that they are getting from your products. And if you don't have all these responses, you basically don't have a business, because that shows that you haven't talked to users, right? And it's until you are that scale that you can say, yes, I have product market fit, right? So that product market fit is very important. But even when you have a product that resonates with users, you're also going to need to be thinking unit of economics. How do we raise the next money? Do we have enough to grow, bootstrap this business, or can we do partnerships? Or, there are so many things, that happen with products and getting to scale a product, right? And honestly, also you need someone in that point. So when you as the founder is thinking about raising money, you need someone really capable to keep moving the product fast. Do you know why? There is heavy competition. There is customer needs that are continuously evolving, right? So if you don't even have a great product team, who knows to hold down the fort, right? While you go and talk funding and all these things with investors, you know, you're going to drop the ball on so many things, and that in itself can also affect product market fit as well.
Okay, so now I said I had a couple of questions in layers. So you've explained to me about how you had that sweet spot where your passion met the fact that you're being paid for what you love to do. And you also took us back to how the challenges you faced with your startup, which we haven't gone into, but I guess City should have some questions around that area. For me, what I want to know is, you mentioned the challenges you had as a woman entering into the tech space, all the barriers you faced from family, from yourself, from the environment you were going into. What kind of impact did that have on your mental health? And till date, how would you say it is? What has improved? Because we know that the mental health challenges um, have become now they are becoming more evident. We're seeing it like it's an everyday thing now. Before now, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was there. It was a salient challenge, but it wasn't well pronounced. So people weren't able to say, I have mental health issues, or you hear things like I'm stressed, I'm depressed, or I feel like I don't belong here, but we're not using words like mental health. But now it's a thing. So between then and now, what would you say? Has your mental health improved? What are the major changes that have happened? And would like to know.
I think that um, I'm not sure to say, um, how I feel like the best way to say it is to have a healthy balance, right? Or to have a balance where you're healthy and you're comfortable, right? Because what people don't understand is, are you going to make sacrifices? Yes, you are, for the things that you want. You're going to make a lot of sacrifices. So let's say you want to be in tech, you're a very active person, you love to go out, hang with friends, go to the best parties. Um, Sometimes, if you want to be in technology and you don't have the skills yet, you have to pay the price of actually sitting down, right? And actually studying. You may hate it, right? I've come across a lot of students who are like, oh, I don't know if I can do tech for the purposes that you have to sit down and study a lot. I hate studying. And if you already have issues around that, that is a serious mental health issue because you're not going to be happy, right? You're going to be like, I have to not hang out with friends as much as possible. You love watching movies like I do. You might have to stop a little bit. There will be lots of sacrifices along the way. But what I can say is, if you find a system that works for you. And that's why I said you're going to make sacrifices, but to a point that is comfortable for you, right? And comfortable to your mental health, right? So if you're the type who loves people, you just can't see yourself not going out per day, then you have to know when the best times are for you to study so that you can still hang out with those you love, right? And that's it. So for me, I've had to make those sacrifices, right? um, and if you want to be great, be ready to pay the price. And it could be in stages. That's really something I can say. So when you're starting, maybe you don't have to pay a lot of price, right? But if you are ambitious, you might have to do more, right? And also understand that you will get to your sweet spot faster with the more sacrifices you're able to make. That's just what I can say about it. But yeah, keeping a very healthy, honestly, sometimes those in tech, we neglect our mental health. That's something I can say. We have a
I
lot to
thought I
do.
thought you wouldn't say that.
No, definitely. No, no, definitely. Because we have a lot of ambitious people in tech. And, a lot of people who are now joining want to become established really fast, right? Not knowing that for us, there was a time we were gladly not earning anything and answering people in tech, right? Um,
Mm.
I remember my best job as at then was 150K, and I was so happy, right? So it wasn't necessarily about the money. It was just like I was excited to be part of this ecosystem that I loved, right? Um,
Mhm.
so that's just what I can say. Um,
For
so having that healthy
okay,
balance, knowing that things are for a season, right? So if you want to do a course and you have to study, just reward yourself often. Do the things you love.
um,
For me, I work, 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 and then take take a breath, doing something I love. And honestly, what you love could be just hanging out by yourself. You don't want to talk to anybody for that weekend. You just want to Netflix and chill and not have to say a word to anyone outside, and that's okay.
okay, Choma. I know that Stevie is itching to say stuff, but what would you say? Two questions laced in one. What would you say to someone who wants to get into tech for the money, just because tech is an avenue to make because people in tech make a lot of money. There are lots of founders who are going into tech who want to build products because they want to make money. That's just the
Yeah.
motivation. What would be your word for them? One, two. what would be your word for those founders who are putting their health on the line just to stay in tech, to stay relevant? They have become high performance overnight because of a standard they've set for themselves, which is, I will call, an unhealthy standard. We see founders trying to build, trying to raise funds for projects and products that they have no passion for, just because they want to just compete with the Joneses, right? So now I'm giving you two scenarios. I'd like to know your take, and I know why I'm asking this question. I've heard you speak. I hear the fact that you're an OG. You've been there in the space, as in the tech space, when there was, when people didn't even know what tech was, didn't know the value of tech. So you were just yeah, I'm the tech, and you were answering the tech stuff, like the tech personality, and it was easy then. But now it's even 10 times harder, and you've paid the price. At least to an extent, you've paid the price by the number of experience you've had, the number of years you've put in, the number of failures you've had, the kind of quality of work you have put in, right? The different validations you've had. I want you to answer this question as Chioma. Don't answer this question as the lead product manager for ADR. Answer it as honest as you can as Chioma. I asked those two questions. Answer it.
Okay. So, first of all, if you're doing anything that you're not passionate about, you're going to burn out, and, you know, it's not going to be good, right? So that's the first thing. You watch out for burnout. But people who set unhealthy standards also don't understand the principles of prosperity, right? Um, and that is why I always say it has to be anything you're doing has to be purposeful. So taking a step back, what is the purpose of which I'm doing this? If it's all about money, it's fine. It's okay. I don't have any, aversions to making money. But you have to also understand that a lot of people have gotten there and they were no more, right? You could try to get to a peak overnight, and, you know, you just end up not being there anymore when it's time to enjoy all these things. And, you know, having that healthy understanding as well, that you could make a lot of money and then turn around and use that money then to take care of your mental health and other things. Why? Because you had pushed yourself too far. I always advocate for balance, right? Balance. It's good that people are ambitious. I understand the founders need to build something really successful, um, but also understand that desperation also shows, when you're speaking to maybe investors and all that, right? Especially because you might be building a product for only yourself and then you don't have users. So, see something that happens when you have product market fit, it's obvious, right? If you're really solving problems for people, and you understand those pain points, it becomes obvious almost immediately. You will take that product from place to place, from a stage to the next stage to the next stage to the next stage, and things will make sense. In fact, the way it happens is that the product will sell itself, and people will buy more faster than you can make them, right? So if you're not at a product market fit point, there are issues of even, you're just wasting resources doing the things that you're doing, right? And it could also show your unwillingness, right, to even go in and understand the market that you're building for, right? The people that you're building for, those who are using your product. It's But if you're doing it because you have true understanding of the needs of the market, right? Also having a healthy system is very important, and also understanding that prosperity is also like it's everything and more. So it's health, it's good health, it's great relationships, it's money, right? It's peace of mind. It's also productivity, and not just being, sick and all that. So just having a healthy understanding of what wealth and prosperity means can also help you at those times to balance your mental health, right? Also, for those who are going into technology and saying, hey, I want to make it overnight, it's unrealistic. You just have to be honest. It's unrealistic. It's a journey that you will take and that pays off. Yeah, there are guarantees that it will pay off, but you have to be in the game long enough for it to pay off, right? And if you are not, and that's what it is, right? Finding that sweet spot where I know people who are just happy to just code all day. They're not even making money from it, and they're very happy, right? And you need to get yourself to that point, and then after that, the next step would then make a lot of sense, right? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'll let them Siri now. Siri has been itching. I hope the questions is about to give you are not controversial questions.
Yeah, no, I'm very intrigued. I think one of the things first that I want to just learn before I go into a lot more on the type of product that we're building is how do you handle failure? And let me give you context. So you've just left the pharmacy job and you want to do this startup, and then you didn't build $1 billion company and it failed. Go back to that moment and how did that moment shape your expectation for what has now led to be a stunning career in tech?
It was brutal, but honestly, I think I had this space of a year where if anyone tells me anything about startups, I would just be like, please, 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 please. I'm not in that mental space. Nobody should tell me anything about going back as a founder or doing something in that space again. It was painful. It was a huge time for reflection. And it was more painful because sometimes you have people in your support system who are like, but we told you, and I'm like, yeah, you told me so. And they're like, yeah, but then you failed that, and I'm like, so what? We pick up and we move on. But yeah, it was painful that they were waiting for me to fail so that they could say they told me so, right? But yeah, but aside from that, I did get over it.
Did you now go back to those people now that you are having like this billion
Oh, I
career?
don't think so.
Everybody is like
I definitely don't.
just to be messy, and then maybe you don't say it in so many words, but then you go around where they are so they can
So
then see
many
that.
words.
Yeah, you see, I've made it. Like, what were you saying? What were you saying again? I mean, right?
Yeah.
So, so the reason why I asked that is because I've been a 3 times founder myself. I've been in the tech space for maybe the last 11 years, and it's a lot of sleepless night. I'm still in the tech space. My 9 to 5 is a tech job. Um, I advise a lot of founders as well. And I know that failure is the hardest thing. That realization, because with tech, unlike um, other businesses or whatever it is, with tech, when you fail, it's for the first time you are having that realization that you might not build $1 billion company that you think you're going to build. Like
I
that's what
know.
that's what failure does for you with tech. With every other thing, it's like, oh, okay, this job was not good for me. Let me find another one. But with tech, it's like you don't
Mhm.
have a future. Like the response to failure is you do not have a future. Just forget about it.
Sure. Yeah.
this brings me
Honestly,
to
I feel like we should, in a lot of the groups I'm in, we always say, oh, we need to spotlight failures and we need to be empathetic to founders. But honestly, somehow in our psyche, we just want to succeed. We never get to doing that, empathizing with people who fail. And I don't know if not talking about how bad it makes us feel um, helps, right? Because you really need to have that moment of reflection and also ask yourself, well, why was I doing this in the first place? I remember doing a lot of reflection when I saw how bad I felt. I was moving forward, getting these new opportunities, and still just kept feeling bad that everything didn't work. But I think I at some point I realized I had to take some time to really think about it and reflect and ask myself the real questions. I did like this um, root cause analysis. Why are you feeling bad, right? Why? And the first thing I realized was that my ego was attached to this thing, right? And doing that root cause analysis then began to teach me that
yeah,
I
because
was jeopardizing my health
yeah,
and my positive sense of wellness just by attaching my ego to the
yeah,
success of my startup. And I
but,
think that that's what a lot of founders do,
yeah, because the
right?
truth is when you
Siri,
start,
Honestly,
Siri, Siri, is it safe to say that with what she said, I want to ask you, Siri, because I'm a one-time founder. Three times, my God, you should have an MSc. I have a BSc in failure. I don't have an MSc yet. Um, but I mean in the tech space, but in my life, I have a lot of them. So is it safe to say that founders at this stage are building for their ego? We're
so
building that product for our ego. Is this safe to say that at this
so
point?
so the answer is complicated, right? It's complicated because it's twofold. So
Mhm.
number one, it's always an ego thing. Ego is always on the line. This is why you see that founders will find out that their startups are dying, right? So founders will notice that their startups are dying, like literally dying. But then they will ignore all investment, they will
all the
ignore all
signs.
investor
Yeah.
advice. Everybody will advise them that, listen, this is not going to work. They will say it will work, right? So that's one. That stubbornness comes from a position of ego, right? But also, if you have a founder who is deeply
But
connected,
that stubbornness is also good for founders.
yeah.
By that you mean resilience, right? But
Yeah,
the resilience is
resilience.
important, but
Yeah.
it needs to be put in proper perspective. When you have metrics that are showing you, like you're seeing your heart rate is going down, it means you are dying. The wake up time for you is slim because
But
when you wake up, you can reiterate, but you don't wake up, it means you're dying. So we're not talking about resilience here. We're saying you're a founder whose business is dying. Your resilience here is not important. It's dying.
It's
What do
not
you
important.
do? Do you understand? What do you do at this point? You need to reiterate, or you need to shut down, or you need to turn to a 30, or you need to just pull off, right? Which is a very
Yeah.
difficult thing because as a founder, one time of a tech startup, that I didn't want to hear. I went 1 full year without any visible result. I didn't want to stop, right? So I
Yeah.
understand it's crazy, but having the right kind of environment, having the right kind of support, I mean the right kind that when they tell you this, they are able to hold you through the failure, right? And not just leave you and point fingers like I told you so. Hold you through the failure and say, okay, you want to do this again? Why don't we take some time and get this right before we jump right in? Right? I think that's beautiful. That's what we lack spaces that talk about failure and
so
then provide support from the failure. How other founders don't have to make this mistake and not have support through it. That's important in the ecosystem, if you ask me. City.
Yeah. So Esther, I want to ask Choma. I have a bunch of questions to have Choma, but to respond to you, right? My experience is my experience with the tech ecosystem is such that it's a multifaceted problem. Like there are different layers to this. So number one, um, online, nobody seems to care about your failure. Everybody just wants you to say, I succeed, and you shout it. Oh, today my GMV just crossed 100 million, or my revenue is X million, and everybody shout, yay! Nobody cares when you say, oh, I failed today, and yeah, things like that, right?
Yeah,
um
true, true,
and
true. I
sometimes they
agree.
do, other times mostly people don't do that. But also when you are in the tech industry, by default everybody thinks you are just like you're a madman or a mad woman, right? Like trauma experience is the fact that every when our startup failed, everybody come now to say I told you so. Do you understand? So it makes it difficult for trauma to be able to express that failure to those people,
Failure.
because she feels like as if she's going to be judged by the
Yeah,
"I told you so" type of people, right? But then
yeah.
the journey of, we're having mentors like Shoma, we're having a lot of mentors. There's a lot of people now creating that safe space. We are not where we want to be yet, but there is the
Mhm.
safer community compared to what we used to have when I
Yeah,
started, right? When my first two startup failed, I could not even speak to my best friend about it because he had no clue what I was talking about, right? And
yeah, yeah.
so it's
I,
it's
I,
all about,
I understand.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
about,
see, it's true. It's true. It was harder for me to have conversations about it then because, of course, no one really understood. So I took it from the point of, okay, they don't understand what I was trying to even achieve in the first place, and they
yeah.
couldn't offer the support, right? So I well started seeing that empathy, right? And that's why I don't go back and tell them I told you so. They really
Yeah,
didn't understand. There was
yeah.
nothing I was saying at that point that they could get.
But
They
but
couldn't offer their sympathies.
show
Um,
me
but
show
yeah,
me
at least now we can think about it, right? And then say, okay, where can I then go back and iterate? Was I really solving a user problem? And how how could I scale it now? Right? There is more capital now in the ecosystem. Trust me, we have a lot more things now that we did back then, right? I know a lot more people who are now willing to invest. I know a lot more angel investment groups. I did not know these things then, right? Some of
so
the capitals I was going after them was a lot more, advanced capital, people who wanted
so
to do Series A. So it was harder to get them to do any angel
yeah.
investment. But things have changed and
Chioma,
things are
so
looking
let's go
promising.
to that, right? What does it take today to have to build, because there's a difference between building the right product and finding product market fit, right? So you can have like the most sophisticated product. Technically, everything is okay, but from a product market fit perspective, is when you have mass adoption. So the willingness of the people to actually pay for that is the only way you can actually know whether your product is relevant anyway, right?
And
What does
yeah.
it take today for a founder who, remember, doesn't have as much budget to do a thorough market research in a broad spectrum, right? Because if we are talking about even Lagos alone, let's say you want to even service Lagos alone, you're building a logistics app, you want to service Lagos alone, that research is going to cost you an arm and a leg. What
Hmm.
does it take
Yeah.
today to build a sound product that will get to market, a product market fit? What does it take?
I think it's also easier to build products that have product market fit. It all has to do with going to be in the same place as the people that you're solving for. If you don't have user empathy, right, you're never gonna understand what their sweet spot is, right? What that aha moment will be for them, right? So I think it's easier now. You don't need huge amounts of money to do that. First of all, who am I solving for, right? And what I tell founders is ask a lot of why, what, why, where. No, push back, right? When people give you one word answers, right? Because say, oh, I have problems with, generally traveling. And you say, okay, yeah, there's a problem in travel industry. Yes, but where? Right? Where? Because travel is huge. Okay, let's say I have trouble seeing doctors in healthcare. Okay, but where? Because I know generally you could see doctors in hospitals, right? At least you should get someone to see. Yeah, but then where is now the problem? Okay, I don't want to sit for 3 hours waiting for doctors. Okay, now there is a problem there. Yeah. So if you walk into any general hospital, you're going to sit for like 3 hours waiting for a doctor. Yes. Okay. And you don't want to do that. Yes. Okay. Narrowing down that single problem. Yes, you want to build something in the telemedicine. But first of all, narrowing down into that small, tiny problem in that area is enough for you to begin to then ask better questions, right? And then ask, try to solve those questions, iterate on it, those problems, iterate on it, come back to your user and say to them, hey, okay, I have a way for you to spend less than 10 minutes to see a doctor. And they'd be like, okay, are you willing to pay for such a an experience? You will see those who will say yes. So your value prop is easily don't spend 3 hours waiting for a doctor in a general hospital. Spend only 10 minutes to see a doctor on our platform. Now you are solving problems. But a lot of people don't know how to find the right kind of problems to solve, right? They don't even understand how to iterate on top of problems. And they think, oh, it's when I take it on and it's big and it's huge. It's at that point where you say, okay, see, spend 10 minutes before seeing a doctor here. Then you start expanding the scope of those your audience, right? Okay, those in Lagos. Okay, what about those in Port Harcourt? Are there people in Abuja that want to spend less than 10 minutes? And then with that audience segmentation, doing a lot of targeting, honestly, you don't know, but you're growing that business, right? And then now gently building on top of that. Yeah. So yeah, let your user then guide you into what they want.
So let me ask one question, Chioma. Masterclass, product management masterclass 101. In 1 minute, how not to build a bad product for the African community.
Don't change the world, right? Don't try to change the world. There are so many problems to solve. Find problems that resonate with users, actual problems that resonate with your users, right? Don't lump it up and try to solve everything. I've seen founders that are doing 10 things. Oh, I'm creating services for these people. There is nothing wrong with that. That's a consulting company, and that's okay, right? I do have one, right? But when you really want to build like a technology startup, you have to dumb it down. That's how you find product market fit.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've been joined by Choma, um, one of the OG of African tech ecosystem, lead product manager at ADR, a founder, mentor, advisor to a lot of startups. I feel like this is a conversation that we should have again, Choma. So I would like to hold you into commitment right now. So everybody that will be listening to this will listen to this commitment. You need to come back so we deep dive into some of the products that are currently being built in the continent. What will
Yeah.
be impacts? What will be the impact of these products? And what is the future of products in itself in the continent? It's been such
More
a
like
uh,
city, before
Shoma.
you round up,
Yeah.
more like in at the big pitch or the pitches that we be having. We're going to bring her on to help people, not just help them know, just save us from the drama, the mental health struggles that partners are going through. Or when she hears your pitch, she just knows that this product is not going to go anywhere. Or, oh, you need to work on this, right? So I think we also need to bring her on X one of these days to help founders to narrow their products to what their users really need. I thought to throw
No,
that in as
no, definitely. So Choma, it's up to you now. Can you commit to coming back here and then also joining us on X so we can deep dive into product development in the continent, but also I would really, really like to understand what do you think the future of products is in the continent?
It's it's exciting for me, the future of product. I don't do product for local startups anymore. Uh, but I really know that it's going to get better, right? Capital is going to increase. So, and a lot of challenges that are cropping up will need to be solved, right? Um, those who will be in product, right, building for the African ecosystem are going to be tougher, but much more. They're going to grow, you know, growing the amount of responsibilities that they have to handle, the number of people that they are building for as well, right? So I feel like the future is really good. Um, and there will be more opportunities. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, there are no much roles," but trust me, more startups are coming up. They're going to do better, a lot more better, as it unfolds, and there will be a lot more product jobs as well on the continent.
Amazing. And we also have your commitments to come back for another session with us, correct?
Yes, I guess we'll
Great.
find time. Definitely.
Great. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been having a conversation with Chioma Udoh, Lead Product Manager at ADR. I've been your host today, Sidi Sakon. I've been joined by my co host, the wonderful Esther Richards. Until next time, it's been such a privilege to have this conversation. This is the Pitch from Africa. Good day.